Hi, I'm Kathy Wetters, and I'm joined by my dynamic co-host, Jim Wojciechowski and Jeanette Palmer. Our guest today, we are honored to have Alan Hoffman from Oasis Senior Advisors. Welcome, Alan.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate being here.
Maybe we just kick it off with telling our listeners a little bit about your background and your role at Oasis Senior Advisors.
Maybe what we should do is say what Oasis Senior Advisors is first.
Yeah, that was a good place to start. Yeah, good place to start.
So Oasis Senior Advisors is a free service that allows us to help people find independent living, assisted living, and memory care communities. Our service area, my wife and I, Leanne, live in the Naperville area, and we cover an area approximately 15 to 20 miles surrounding Naperville. And we do reach out a little farther as the individual needs of our clients require.
And we know that that's such a daunting task sometimes to try and find the right community, so the fact that you provide that service is really valuable.
We get a lot of personal satisfaction. The reason that we got into Oasis Senior Advisors was our own personal situation about 10 years ago, where my wife's parents, living in DeKalb, needed to move closer to us in Naperville. And the process that my wife went through was quite extensive. We didn't know anything. We didn't know anything about independent living or communities or senior communities, and so basically my wife toured every community in the Naperville surrounding area. We ultimately found independent living apartment in Plainfield, Illinois, where my in-laws moved, and it's worked out. My mother-in-law still lives there today, but it was a time-consuming process. What Oasis Senior Advisors does is speed the process in identifying the right communities for an individual client's need, and then we're more personal because we will schedule tours and we will tour with the family or the client to make sure that they ask the right questions and find the right place. Ultimately, that's their decision, is to find the right place. Mm-hmm. And we love what we do. It's great to serve the senior community and to see people be so appreciative of our free service.
Now, Alan, are you you and Leanne natives of Chicagoland?
We are not. We've lived up in the Naperville area for a little over 20 years now. I grew up in Champaign, and my wife grew up in DeKalb, but then moved to Urbana to work at Carle Hospital, and that's how we met.
How about that? So that's where you met, at work.
Yeah, on a blind date.
On a blind date. How cool.
Another one of those fun facts.
Yes.
There we go.
Wow.
That's going to be on the trivia question, by the way. So tell us a little more about Oasis Senior Advisors. And now you started your journey through a need, and then you started a company through that.
We're actually a franchise, so we found the franchise when we were looking for a business opportunity a couple of years ago, not intending in being in the senior space, but when we saw what Oasis had to offer with the software and the personal service, both Leanne and I had the same reaction, which was, oh my God, it could have been so much simpler.
Yes.
And we should bring this to the community. And so being a business owner, as you guys probably know, you're now the master of everything. That's been a challenge, but I'm happy to say that I think we can call ourselves senior housing experts, but at the same time, every client presents us with a new challenge. Every community we meet presents us with a new opportunity, and so we are constantly learning. For example, last week I was working with a family with a special needs son, and her request was for independent living, but also a place that her son, if she passed, could safely live the rest of his life.
Wow.
So we identified a couple of communities and we tried those things out. We still have one community that looks to be on the possibility sideline, but we don't shy away from the complexity. And we actually look forward to people challenging us with these much more challenging situations with a family. So we don't shy away from anything.
And so I saw too that you're a certified senior advisor. So I think that gives you a lot more skill that you don't have to shy away from anything, because if you would tell our audience about what it means to be a certified senior advisor.
Thanks for bringing that up. Certified senior advisor required me before we actually went out and worked, but it was 40 hours of coursework online. I took a test, passed the test, and then I have every 3 years 30 hours of ongoing continuing education credit.
30 hours a year. That's pretty.
Actually, every 3 years.
Every
I'm
3
sorry,
years.
yes.
Every 3 years.
So
Yeah.
10
yeah.
hours a year.
That's
yeah.
still.
Correct.
That's.
And
Sounds
and
good.
it's on ethics as well as everything about seniors. So while it gives us gives me some professional background and ongoing education, it's regarding senior finances, housing, legal assistance, etc. I can tell you that I'm not an expert in everything, but having referral sources such as you guys, when those people ask us questions that we can't answer, we do know people who can answer those questions, and so we are happy to be sort of a resource conduit of all things seniors. Our specialty is housing, but we have found that people have needs beyond what we do, and so knowing other individuals that can address those specific needs is beneficial to us.
And that's
like
how we are right at home too, and you know, that's why we look for like certified people like you that we know that our clients can trust when we refer someone to you. We know that you have the credentials that the clients can trust and feel comfortable relying on you with.
And not everyone who is in the same space as us is a certified senior advisor. This is an additional standard that Oasis Senior Advisors requires all of their franchisees to undertake and to continue in that CE process. We're proud of that.
What are some other differences between your company and others in the industry, Alan?
I think what I'd like to reinforce is the personal aspect of what we do. There are several large internet companies out there. People probably know them. Our experience with their process is that they will identify communities for you if you sign up, and then they'll send to you 10 or 15 communities, and then those communities will contact individuals directly. We're sort of the firewall between communities and our clients. So we will meet with people individually to assess their needs, and then match them to communities in our database. And then we will schedule tours with them and help people make sure they find the right community and that they ask the right questions. Perfect example was the touring last week with this special needs child who also was 51 years old. So going into a community, we were able to help my client ask the right questions on behalf of her son to make sure, hey, your objective was to find a place where your son can age in place if you pass, and make sure that those questions were addressed to the best of our ability with the community.
I have a scenario very similar to that in my own family in another state. I have a loved one that's probably going to need memory care, and then has a disabled son with a brain injury that's going to need care. When you were thinking about communities for that couple, the mother and the son, were you looking for a continuum of care communities, or kind of how did you ferret that out?
That's a great question, and that's, I think, where we also excel with each family. Is a family might have expectations of what they'd like to see, what they'd like to have, and then I'll sort of weave in, I know this is what you would like to have, but this is what's available. And often family members then sort of need to rethink their strategy and change their mind. That can be very difficult. Sometimes it's also, I know what you're looking for, but it's not in this area. It may be, 15 miles away. but that's sort of the way the industry is.
And I think that's where it's so valuable, the service that you provide, is because you have the experience and the bandwidth of seeing several families and providing solutions to them, versus this one that you're helping now has the tunnel vision simply on their own, so they don't understand all the other resources that are available.
Absolutely. And at times, I may have already said this, but at times it's what the information we share is not what the family wants to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But our long-term strategy now is a little bit different than what it was a year ago. A year ago, because we were new, less experienced,
Yes.
it was about placing people. Now it's about helping people. Let us help you put together a plan. And it may be home care. I'll talk to you about that. It may be housing. Often we have clients that do nothing and then call us back later, and the circumstances at times have changed, and the plan that we put together 2-3 months ago is no longer valid. Often people who are calling us back, their only option now is skilled nursing. And so, my recommendation would be to people is, if it's in your gut, if it's in your head, if you're thinking you need to do something, give us a call. It costs nothing. We can put a plan together and at least have that plan, so if something changes in the future, you will have an idea of where you can go, what your pathways are, whether it's independent, whether it's private pay, whether it's Medicaid, whether it's skilled nursing. We talk to everybody about their options and then let them make the decision.
We were talking with a family recently, and it brings up something which my hat's off to you guys. The scenario with them was there were many opinions in the family, and some individuals were swayed by the newness and plushness of the ambiance, and didn't look a little deeper to see what was the services that the loved one maybe needed, and the pluses, the pluses of some of the things that facility had to offer, and they were kind of snowed a little bit. And how do you get a family to get the needs from the wants, from the nice to haves?
Yeah, that's a great question too. We do, with a smile on, work with all the different family dynamics.
Yes.
But
we do too.
Yeah. What I'd like to reinforce to people who are listening, though, it's not about calling anybody out. It's about encouraging the family to come together to make the right decision, whatever that decision is. But when you get to the sort of the tactical point of touring communities, there are new communities out there. I was at one yesterday that opened back in October in Naperville, and you can be swayed by the beauty of the community. But again, with us being there, helping ask the right questions, as 2-3 tours in a day, people get overwhelmed. My wife and I have decided that no matter what a client tells us, we're going to advise them, only do 2 tours a day.
Oh, what
Very
a great
good.
idea.
Yeah, and because it can be overwhelming and people forget certain aspects. But again, that's the benefit of us being there, because we can always say, hey, one of your concerns was this price point. So remember that this community is above your price point. Is that still important to you? People's needs, wants can change. Family dynamics can change. And so, the other, I think, personal aspect that we bring is that we do have frequent conversations with the family when we're touring, to make sure that their needs haven't changed. If they have changed, that we address that and move forward with the best decision. Ultimately, though, I'd like to reinforce that we don't make the decision. And we've had clients who say, what do you think? And my answer is always, it doesn't matter what I think, but let's go back and revisit what your concerns and your needs were. And then, has anything changed? And it's up to that family to make the decision. We'll try to help them ask more questions if they're uncertain, but we really personally try to stay out of making the decision for them.
Not to minimize the importance and the severity of making a decision like this, but it's similar to when you're going to buy a car. and it is for me anyway. You know, and when the salesman is giving you the bells and whistles and, you know, the shiny hubcaps, but that's not really what you went in for. But you're coming out with a completely different package than you had anticipated, because there wasn't anybody there to hold you back and say and remind you what you had gone in for originally. So, you know, you might be getting sold in one of those facilities. So I really see the value of the service that you provide to go and tour with the family and keep them on track and focused on what their needs really are.
And that's a great example, because that's often a scenario that I tell people when you're making a decision is when you buy a car, you don't want to get emotional because you'll pay more for it. But when you tour a community, you want to have an emotional response, because all the communities can look beautiful. They're all structures. They all sound good. But you want to have a feeling, you know, did the staff treat you professionally? Do you see your loved one living in this community? Do you feel good about it? Sometimes that requires multiple tours, and many of the communities will invite you in for a lunch. So we encourage people who have the time to make multiple visits to the same community, so that they do have an emotional feel, because you're putting your loved one, this
Sure.
isn't buying a car, this is finding a place for your loved one that you want to feel confident that they're caring for them appropriately.
Do you ever encourage, when they're just struggling so, to recommend a respite stay before making a decision?
Respite is a good option. I will tell you that in many cases, though, respite stays, the communities would like to have 30 days or longer. We're working with a couple of clients right now that are 7 to 9 days. A family's going on spring break, and they're only going to be gone for 7 days. That short period of time, many communities won't look at, or you're going to pay for 30 days even though you're only there for 7 days.
Oh, interesting fact.
Okay.
Now, if you encounter some perhaps flawed logic when you're looking at facilities, will you ever refer them to like a financial advisor or an elder care attorney, maybe to give them to get them kind of back on a course where they've weighed in all the potential pluses and minuses?
Absolutely, and I think we did that with a client a couple of weeks ago, where fairly urgent situation, wanting to place parents in a community, but the parents were, after 60 years, sad to say, going through a divorce, splitting up assets. He was a veteran. They had separate, IRAs, and actually the first step after talking with the son was, you know what, I think you need to see an elder law attorney and get your assets divided up and then come see us. The good news was, I think the family had significant assets that they could afford it, but that's really not something where you want to make a mistake. And another reason why we would refer a person to elder law is if they were, for example, a veteran who maybe had the opportunity for aid and attendance, but also potentially Medicaid. And so if you have potential different revenue streams, you would want to talk to an elder law attorney to make sure you follow the right path. Is aid and attendance better than Medicaid? And it really is based on a person's, physical ability, but also financial. In those kind of complicated situations, it could be easy for someone just to go ahead and place somebody. But we've heard stories where, a veteran took Medicaid and it would have been better to take aid and attendance. So again, we'll direct people to an elder law attorney to make sure they have their finances in order and they have peace of mind about what direction they're going in the future.
What's real nice, Alan, is we're all in business, but we're all advocates of the senior community, and you can clearly hear this in what you're doing for your clients. What are some of the greatest values you bring a client?
That's a great question. I think, my head instantly goes back to all the people that we've helped over the last 2 years. In some cases, we've just provided a list of, HUD housing or directing people to DuPage County Senior Services website. So I think the greatest value that we bring is a resource. I also am reminded of often when people call us for the first time, they say, I don't know where to get started. And it's very satisfying for me to say, you called the right people. We can get you
There
started.
we go. Yes.
Right.
So true.
And whether we're able to, whether housing is their solution, we know enough people in the industry, such as Right at Home, that we can confidently refer people out and say, if it's not us, these people can guide you.
Mm-hmm.
You've mentioned this before, Alan, but how much does your service cost?
Yeah, thank you. Our service is free, but in full disclosure, because I like to tell people how the whole system works, we are a free service for families and clients, but how we do get paid is if we place an individual in a community, the community will pay us like a brokerage fee, a one-time fee. And communities love to work with us because we bring to them well-qualified clients. And again, I mentioned before, we generally tour only 2 or 3 communities, and so the communities like to work with us because they know they have a better shot at finding a right client for their community.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, on the internet, you're going to get 10 or 15 communities calling you. And as a matter of fact, about a month ago, I was working with a client who worked with one of the internet companies. She was given a list of 10, and I said, and then she was referred to us, and I said, do you really want to tour 10 places? And she said, no. And I said, how about we whittle that list down? And so even though it wasn't my list, I worked with them to whittle the list down, and they chose to work with us, which was flattering.
That's probably one of the biggest benefits that I can see Oasis Senior Advisors offering is the choices are great out there. And every family is are individuals. They have their individual needs, their individual wants, and requirements, and you're there to help them figure these things out, because there's a lot of times they have no idea where to start because there are so many choices out there.
Right. And while the communities certainly work very hard at bringing in the right clients, I think another value that we bring is helping them ask the right questions of each of the communities to make sure that it's a right fit.
Absolutely.
What advice can you give to people that are listening that might want to call you prior to calling you? Any advice for them to homework for them to do before they call you?
I don't think there's any homework. I think probably the greatest challenge is to make the call. Don't feel like you're going to be pressured into making a decision, because my focus, and I thought probably a good time for me to reinforce, my wife is a registered nurse, and she's still a practicing nurse.
Always nice to have in a house.
Absolutely.
And a business.
And she brings a lot of credibility to our business. Not that I don't, but we are a great pair. My background was sales, but like I said, both of us became passionate in this because of our own personal experience. But I think for a lot of people, just make the call. Give us a shot. We'll answer any questions. Again, we try to get people started in going the right direction and putting a plan together. Again, whether it's housing or not, it's about painting a pathway for the future. When you have doubts, like I said, if you've got a gut that's in a knot right now, if you're worried about your loved one at home, you probably should give us a call.
What's that phone number? That's
what's
what we
that
want.
information?
Yep, that's in.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oasis Senior Advisors, 630-360-1041. I'll say it again, 630-360-1041. And I'm Alan Hoffman, and my wife is Leanne. And like I said, we're happy to assist anybody with any questions. We also have a microsite, which is naperville.oasisssenioradvisors.com. I think you also, if you Google Oasis Naperville, we probably come up. I know that's a little
And then
lengthy.
we know that there's going to be a link on our pages too to your website.
Great.
So it'll be easy to find you from now on.
And on our website, we have a lot of great feedback that you can look at if you have some doubts about whether you should call. I know that trust is probably the most important thing, and we are very confidential with the information that people share. We realize that when you call us, you're sharing not only financial information, but also personal family details, and we take very good care of that. We are compliant with HIPAA, so we get people to sign approval before we share information with communities.
Ellen, thanks for being our guest today.
Thank you.
Don't forget to, if your family needs help finding a place for mom and dad to live, give Oasis Senior Advisors a call. One more time on the number?
Yeah, 630-360-1041. And again, we are a free service.
Excellent. And